Welcome back. Let's look at the attributes of emotional intelligence as they relate to the application to your role as a parent. Before I go into these, however, I just want to remind ourselves that we are only human and that we make mistakes. And so when we do, let's not beat ourselves up about it. As long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm trying my best, that's all anyone can ask of you. So be kind to yourself. Firstly, communication. This lies at the very heart of the relationship between parent and child. This is not just about what you say, but how you say it. I remember being in a large department store and a small child ran off and was immediately hunted down by his irate mother, who screamed at him and slapped his legs in front of everyone. Like me, people probably wanted to say something but didn't. The child meekly complied because of the strength and power of the yelling mum. But at what cost? She got the short-term gain of keeping the child in line. But what about the long term? When the boy is a strong teenager, will he listen then to the yelling parent? All that yelling does is to cause resentment, and so the message is lost. Our body language is very important. It should be open, and your tone of voice should be level and friendly, even when you might feel tempted to scream at them. Think about it from the perspective of your boss at work. You'd probably like to have a fair degree of autonomy at work. How would you like it if your boss was yelling at you, telling you that you were lucky to have the job and to get on with it now? Okay, so I've had bosses like that, but I didn't like it. In work, we like to be treated with respect and dignity. It's no different for teenagers. There are so many analogies that we can draw from work. I'm sure that you'd like to be consulted on ideas and projects and not have them forced upon you without any consultation. In the same way, consider what it is you wish to achieve before talking with your teenager. Usually, it's to regulate some form of behaviour or to get agreement on a task that needs to be performed. I found that the most productive conversations with my teenagers are two-way discussions and not just me telling them what to do. So rather than approaching a discussion with the object of forcing your teenager to do something, try a different approach. Negotiate for a win-win situation, a win-win solution, something that you can both live with and which you're both committed to honouring. And certainly your teenager will be more committed to honouring that agreement because they've been part of the process of agreeing. Active listening. I remember a friend said to me that they found it really hard to converse with their daughter. When we visited for dinner, their daughter tried to talk to her dad, my friend, while he flicked through the sports channels, not even looking at her. Because of the imbalance of the relationship, active listening is something we rarely do with our teenagers. So be an active listener. Give all of your attention and no distractions. Turn off the TV, put down the phone, listen to their viewpoint and summarize what your teenager is telling you. Listening is not just about hearing, it's also about seeking to understand and be understood. Avoid the temptation to interrupt just to get your point across. 70% of communication is listening. One of the major problems I've heard about in talking to other parents is that their children do not confide in them. If you don't already, take the time to sit down and listen to your teenager with undivided attention. Give them that full attention. Be present in the moment, not distracted or thinking about the task that you need to perform at work tomorrow. Be approachable. Be prepared to listen and not judge your children, because if they feel that you'll judge them, they're not going to open up to you. So don't always give in to that temptation to give advice. No matter how well-meaning it is, sometimes just listening is enough and assuring them that they are in a safe place. I think it is a common failing of our generation that we feel our role as parents is to provide them with all the solutions. Sometimes teenagers just want to be heard. So guiding them to find their own solutions is what will help make future leaders of our children. Empathy. What do we mean by empathy? Well, it means having the ability to sense others' feelings and how they see things. It's a valuable skill if you think about walking a mile in someone else's shoes, to see their viewpoint and to take an active interest in their concerns. You pick up cues to what's being felt and thought. With empathy, you sense unspoken emotions. You listen attentively to understand the other person's point of view. Whereas sympathy is feeling for someone, empathy is feeling as someone. For example, you may feel badly for someone, or better put, feeling about their situation. To differentiate, many people say that empathy is putting yourself in their shoes and how you would feel if you were in them. But remember, it's not about how you would feel in a situation, it is understanding how they feel, which may be a different reaction to you. Therefore, in order to truly show empathy, you need to know your child intimately. Take an interest in what they're doing, get to know them as people and not just as your children. What are their interests and passions? Who are their friends? What views and values do they hold? Understanding who they are as individuals will really help you to develop your empathy. How many times have you said to your children, "You don't know what it's like"? Or rather, your children have said that to you. And often our stock response is, "Well, we were teenagers once." The problem is that we were teenagers a long time ago and things were different. And so the problems that teenagers are facing today are radically different to the ones that we grew up with. Cyberbullying, climate change, employment prospects, easier access to drugs, mental health issues, etc. Active listening and empathy, I think, are truly one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your teenager. If you ask them, they'll probably say, "I want a PS5 or the latest Nike sports shoes." But in reality, material goods just do not cut it. Conflict resolution. So having the skills and approaches we've discussed closely aligns with the ability to head off a conflict, or if one arises, to resolve it. If you think about when you're embroiled in an argument, all you really want is for the other person to listen and understand your viewpoint, even if they don't necessarily agree with it. So if you adopt these strategies, you may find that it has an appreciable difference in their approach to you, and they may not be quite so confrontational. Another key area for resolving conflict is to have a sense of humour. This may be somewhat counterintuitive when you're dealing with a tense situation, but it can often help to diffuse that difficult situation. Also, it is okay to show vulnerability towards your children and to admit that you don't have all the answers. Often, we as parents like to show an outward facade to children that we know everything, because it's another unwritten rule of the parent relative to their children. I remember having a conversation with my late father just before I became a dad, and I asked him how or why he always had adopted this powerful facade of invulnerability, never admitting he might be wrong or he made a mistake. He said that he had to show he was strong, that we could therefore look up to him and model that behaviour, to be strong to survive in the tough outside world. Yet we're all vulnerable, and that's okay. Parenting does not come with an instruction manual, and we sometimes will get it wrong. And when we do, when we've got it wrong and we've made that mistake, it takes a lot of humility and courage to live up to that and to apologise. But if you do so, this will swiftly dissipate any antagonism and deepen your relationship with them. We think of them as the 3 R's of recovery. Recognize, well, I made a mistake. Reconcile, I'm sorry. And resolve, let's work on the solution together.